I call the member for Noosa.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Equity is a word that we use often in debate, policies and procedures. However, at times is missing in our actions and systems. To ensure equity and representation is achieved for Queenslanders, I ask that you consider our motion for an independent tribunal to be appointed to review the resources allocated for non-government members of Parliament. Mr Speaker, the role of the opposition, including crossbench members in Parliament, is integral to ensuring diverse viewpoints are heard and that legislation proposed is investigated in depth to ensure any changes are in the best interests of all Queenslanders. These members represent significant constituencies, perspectives and needs, and as identified in New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia, the most impartial and effective methodology for resource allocation is through an independent entity. Mr Deputy Speaker, I won't go into the current standard Queensland State MP resources, as we are very familiar with, and the inequity that exists. Mr Deputy Speaker, other Australian jurisdictions provide equitable resourcing. New South Wales maintain one of the most established, impartial and transparent systems for the allocation of member staff resources. And according to Section 18 of New South Wales Members of Parliament Staff Act 2013, the number of staff entitled to members are determined by the New South Wales Parliamentary Remuneration Tribunal. In 2018, in addition to the 2 staff members employed at each electorate office, the Tribunal found it necessary to allocate an additional staff member to each electorate office. The Tribunal, having received a submission on the matter, also determined that the additional staff member allocated to crossbenchers should be at a research assistant level. In Victoria, each member is entitled to 2.5 electorate offices. Following an inquiry in 2018, the Victorian Ombudsman suggested the establishment of an independent entity to regulate member staffing entitlements, and in 2019 the Victorian Government established the Victorian Independent Remuneration Tribunal. In addition, they established the distribution of parliamentary advisers under the Victorian Independent Remuneration and Improving Parliamentary Standards Bill 2019. Clause 68(2) of the bill states that each person who is an independent elected member of the Parliament of Victoria is entitled to employ the equivalent of 1 parliamentary adviser in respect of so much of each financial year that the person has been an elected member. The Victorian system assures that all members receive these allocations, including minor party and independents. Mr Speaker, in South Australia, the Electoral Services advised that all members of the House of Assembly are allocated 2 full-time staff and 1 trainee. Independent members of the House of Assembly receive an additional part-time research officer. Members of the Legislative Council are offered 1 full-time and 1 trainee. Independent and minor party members receive an additional full-time equivalent research officer. As well, additional research officers are provided to independent members in both Houses of Parliament as they consider these members to be under-resourced in comparison to major party members. Mr Speaker, in 2018 the CCC recommended that the process to decide an appropriate level of resourcing for all members of Parliament should be determined by an independent entity of the government of the day. Mr MacSporran further said that this would serve the public interest by assuring an objective and consistent assessment of duties of members of Parliament. He then recommended that Parliament consider this issue further. In light of precedents set and the recommendations from the Fitzgerald report, the EARC and CCC, I ask that all members on both sides of the chamber support this motion for a review of the current staffing allocation system and the appointment of an independent entity to do so, not per se the CLA as recommended by the Ethics Committee Report 189. In closing, I want to thank the Premier and Deputy Premier for their support of this motion, to the member for Traeger and the crossbench, and to my intern Nathan, who worked with me on this, as it has been a long journey. Thank you.
Before calling a member for Miller, the noise